All right, here we go. We're going to get into the meat, get into the really serious stuff now about forming a safety team, where to station them, where to put them, what do you need to do when you're serving at your house of worship. I got to tell you this. A few minutes ago, I was reviewing what I've already videotaped for you and thought, man, I don't know about that. I was thinking, man, I hope the lighting is right. I hope I chose the right room. Should I have gone outside on the balcony or down by the lake? There's a beautiful lake out there. And then, of course, there's the issue of my face. I wish I could have put a different face on here. I used to be so pretty. I used to be so pretty back when I was a newborn. And it just kind of went downhill from about age 6 months until my present age of 67 years old. You probably thought I was 30 or 40, but no, I'm pushing 70, and I can't even believe those words are coming out of my mouth. All right, are you ready? Let's get into this. Here we go. Years ago, before my first seminar, with Colonel Grossman anyway, back in 2014, we were about to have a big old conference. We had hundreds of people signed up in Denver, Colorado, had a wonderful time. But I didn't put the program together until a day or two before the seminar. And it hit me as clear as day that you can learn how to protect people from studying the life of David. No one protected sheep better than David. And David, of course, is the one that God used to take out Goliath. So I'm going to take David's life and his experience with Goliath and his life and lifestyle and the way he lived and trained and all of that. And I just want to give you this presentation, and it'll fit. You will learn how to start a safety team, or if you already have one, what you could do better. I guarantee you, even if you already have a team, the things I'm going to share with you are going to be helpful. No one protected sheep better than David. Here we go. Number one, David was chosen. 1 Samuel 16 tells us that David was the chosen servant of God. And this is the way you put together your team. You're not out trying to, you're not announcing it. You're not putting it on Facebook or X, formerly Twitter. You don't do a YouTube video saying we're looking for safety team members, and you do not announce it from the pulpit. Here's the way you recruit members for your team. You know the men and women that have good protective instincts. Go get them. Go get the gifted. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs, a man's gift, that could be a woman also, a man's gift will make room for him. You know who the gifted are. You know the men and women that would be good at this. Go recruit them. Don't announce it from the pulpit or put it on social media or anything like that. Go get them. I like to say, use the Jesus method. Jesus said in John 15, he told his apostles, you did not choose me. I chose you. You did not choose me. I chose you. Go get those good people. Number one, and there's so many things I could say. I'm just going to give you some highlights, some things to really give serious consideration to. Make sure that you recruit people who are the definition of greatness. And I do not use that word because I cannot find another word. And I do not use that word in a generic sense. You want true, legitimate, great people. And by great, here's what I mean. I mean people who are great in relation to the definition of greatness that Jesus gave us. Jesus said, the great ones, the greatest among you, shall be your servant. Here's my point. When you go out and recruit the men and women to put on your team, you want the great ones. That is, you want the ones that have, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you want the ones that have the heart of a servant. You don't want to put people on the team that say, I know how to do this. I carry a gun. I have come across church safety teams where there were members on that team, and they were on that team only because they wanted to carry a gun. Well, listen, that's not a good thing. You know, put me on that team, man. I've been carrying a gun. I've been wanting to shoot somebody ever since I got born again. No, that's not what we do. We want people that have the heart of a servant. And when they show up on Sunday morning, or whenever the saints have gathered and the people have gathered, and it's time to enter into protection mode, you want people that will say, where do you need me today? You want me in the foyer? You want me in the sanctuary, guarding the children's class? You want people that are not only willing to carry a gun, but wear a towel. A towel. You remember John 13? Jesus laid aside his garments, took a towel, and washed the feet of the disciples. You know, if you've served on a safety team for any amount of time, it involves doing a lot. I mean, there'll be days it's raining and the elderly will pull up in their car and they park a block away. You're going to have to go over there or park that car for them. You're going to have the heart of a servant. You're going to do a lot of things that are not security related. So you have to have people on the team that are willing to do what is necessary to create a safe atmosphere, and that's also done by serving the people. All right? Make sure also that you do not put angry people on the team. You don't want people on your safety team that have a problem with anger. They are a ticking time bomb. They are a disaster waiting to happen. The Bible says don't put them on your safety team. Did you know that? Look at this verse in Proverbs 22, verse 24. Do not be a friend of one who has a bad temper, and never keep company with a hot head. Wow. Watch out for those with a bad temper. Don't keep company with them, and don't even be a friend with them. Now, if we apply this literally, we won't have any friends in our life. We won't even be able to be friends with ourselves. But let's just use this verse and apply it to the safety team. Angry people they just stay angry a lot. The Bible says a fool carries around anger in his bosom. You don't want that kind of people. They're authoritative, they're manipulative, they're pushy, they get upset when people don't cooperate with them and their plan and their agenda. Don't put them on there. All right? They might end up doing something stupid and your church will get sued, or worse, somebody get hurt. And that will affect you for years to come. Here's something else about David. Not only was David chosen, David was also conscious of the threats. Now, I'm talking about how he was conscious of the threats of Goliath, who was out to enslave the Israelites and defeat their army and just take over and rule their people. Look what it says in 1 Samuel 17:23. Goliath, there I go, tongue twisted again. Goliath shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Now listen, David knew what was going on, and he knew what needed to be done. Those two things, get those in your mind. He knew what was going on. Goliath is a threat to us. And secondly, he knew what needed to be done. This is absolutely essential. All right? So what do we do? Let me just give you some things you need to do when you arrive at the house of worship on Sunday morning or whatever day. Listen, when I say Sunday morning, you might be Seventh-day Adventist and you meet on Saturday. Or you might be one of our Jewish friends and you meet on Saturday. All right, or maybe you meet on Tuesday nights or Wednesday afternoon. So if I say Sunday morning, please know that I mean whenever you get together and you're working on the safety team. When you first arrive at your house of worship, when you first arrive, the first thing you want to do, and I cannot emphasize this enough, conduct an outside sweep of the church before you go in. Listen, do not, when you get there on Sunday morning, do not go inside. Don't open the door and go in until you have walked around your house of worship. There is a reason for this. All right, as a matter of fact, every slide I have here, almost every one of them, if not every one of them, is because of something that has happened. And there might be a few that are here because I really think this is going to happen. But most of them, the vast majority, are based on something that's already happened. When you get to the house of worship, do not go in until you circle the building. Look around. Pay attention to everything. We had a terrible tragedy happen in East Texas 3 or 4 years ago. A preacher and his wife arrived at their small church. It's in East Texas. I've been there. I went there a few months ago. It's out in the middle of nowhere. Just you're driving along. There's nothing but woods. And all of a sudden, there's a church. Well, this particular Sunday morning, the pastor and his wife arrived at church, got out of their car. The pastor went in one door. He did not go around the building. He went straight into the church. His wife went straight into the building. And the pastor was conducting his usual sweep inside the church instead of outside. And he was armed. This pastor was carrying a gun. Well, while he's inside the church, he goes into one of the bathrooms, and lo and behold, there's a man in there. Now, this was like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, give or take a few minutes. I don't remember the exact time. But he comes across a burglar a man that had broken into the church, and he was hiding. He was hiding from the police because hours earlier, the police had been in hot pursuit of him, and he had crashed his car out in the parking lot of the church. Well, when the police got there, they chasing him, lights and siren. They just assumed that he ran off into the woods, but he didn't. He broke in that church. He knocked out a window, I believe it was, and then he hid in the bathroom for several hours. And now the pastor's got him. The pastor pulls out his gun, and he's got him at gunpoint. Well, the wife apparently heard the commotion. She comes in, and the pastor gets distracted, and the man, the burglar, the man that broke in, he jumped the pastor, took his gun from him, and shot him to death. Now, pastor's dead. I remember talking to a police officer who had been at that scene. He said, Jimmy, a couple of things about that. He said if that pastor had not had a gun, he would still be alive. And secondly, obviously the pastor didn't have that, gun retention training that you need. Guns get taken from people all the time. I know a cop that was killed in Dallas many years ago when his gun was taken from him by a homeless person and then shot in the face and killed in downtown Dallas. You need to have some gun retention skills. But here's the point I want to make. When that pastor got there that morning, he should have parked on the far side of the parking lot. I don't know where he parked. And then he should have said to his wife, honey, wait here while I conduct my outside sweep of the church. Now, I've been to this church, all right? And I've taken pictures of it. If I can find them, I'll put them on here. But if not, if I can't find them, if I can't get them on here, let me just throw this in right now. If he would have conducted a sweep of the outside of the church, if he'd have walked around it, it would have taken 2 minutes to do this. When he got on the back side, he would have seen there's a broken out window. Whoa. He could have gotten away from the scene, called the police, got in his car, and drove off and hid a block or two away from the church. The police would have showed up and they would have found the man they were looking for. But the pastor did not do that. And that resulted in him being murdered. That is just a total unnecessary. I don't even know how to word it. I told you I get tongue-tied and what have you, but it's just a heartbreaking situation. So you get to church on Sunday morning, whenever, conduct a sweep of the church. Do not go in. And I'll tell you this too. If you come across something, and I already mentioned this, and you see that broken out window or unlocked door, don't go in there and search. Well, let me just get to the next premises or next slide, and we'll talk about it. Sweep the premises. All right, you can do this also, even maybe before you walk around the church. Sweep the premises. Start at the edge where your church property meets the street, and then work your way toward the building, looking for anything out of the ordinary or suspicious. All right, what might look suspicious? What do I mean by that? Well, check the parking lot. Are there any odd-looking devices in the parking lot? I remember years ago in Oklahoma, a lady was cleaning the parking lot of a church. She came across this device. She didn't know what it was. She picked it up, threw it in the dumpster, and 10 minutes later, it blew up. It was a bomb. I'm telling you, they're going to bring bombs to church. I've known that to happen in Austin, Texas, in Maryland. I was reading a story not too long ago about a church in Pennsylvania where, in a Catholic church, they found a bomb on the backside of the church. I don't remember how close it was to the church, but nevertheless, it was a bomb. Any devices in the parking lot, ask questions. If you don't know what it is and it looks suspicious, if it's a duffel bag or a briefcase, don't pick that thing up. Back off and call the police. Unattended cars. If you're conducting your sweep of the property and you see a car there, you don't know who it belongs to. It's not the pastor's. Besides, you're there pretty early. You're the only one there. You've never seen that car. It wouldn't hurt to take a picture of the license plate, then back off and call the police and say, hey, there's a car in our church parking lot that might be stolen. Give them the license plate number. Now, the police will not be able to tell you who it belongs to, who that license plate comes back to. But if it is stolen, they can send an officer out there to take the report and take custody of that car. Look for any, if you notice any unattended cars, make a note of that and take the appropriate action. When you get inside the building, any items laying around in the sanctuary, in the foyer. And I've read stories of, I remember reading a story about a church in Iraq one time where a bomb went off inside the church and killed over 50 people. Over 50 people. It's never been easier to make a bomb. Never been easier to make a bomb. Why is that? The internet. You can get on the internet and Google bomb making, and you can learn how to do it. So when you're inside, any items you find laying around in the sanctuary or in the foyer that doesn't look right, take the appropriate action. Check all the Sunday school rooms, all right? Check behind all the bush areas. I remember years ago, the church that I now go to, years ago, over 30 years ago, they found a dead body in a church. And research that I've done and studied from others, well over, I think it's 150 dead bodies have been found at churches in the last 50 years. For some reason, people can get killed in one place and their body gets dumped off at a church. It's happened quite a few times, almost every month. All right. Let me throw this into, I've kind of already said it, but let me say it again. If you suspect somebody's inside the church, don't go in there and look for them. If you're checking those doors, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, you're checking those doors, and you want to do that. You want to check every door that leads to the outside. When you're making your sweep, you've done the parking lot, you're getting closer to the building, you're shaking the doors. If one of those doors open, there is a good chance that it's been open for a very long time. Churches are notorious for leaving doors open. All right? But if you open that door, somebody could be in there. I remember one day at our church I used to belong to, a safety team member showed up and there was one of the homeless guys in town sleeping on the back pew. He probably knew they'll leave a door open. And I remember years ago when I was a police officer, I came to work on a Sunday night and I'm sitting with my fellow officers in the squad room, roll call. The sergeant walks in and says, "Hey guys, I'm going to give somebody 30 minutes of comp time tonight." It was Sunday night, midnight shift, 11 at night till 7 in the morning. He said, "I'm going to let one of you go home early." And we all said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, whoever finds the most open doors on any business in their district or in this city by 3 o'clock, 0300, whoever has the most open doors, you're going home 30 minutes early." When he said that, I looked at my fellow officers and I said, "Hot dog, boys. Jimmy's going home early." And one of them said, "What makes you think that?" I said, "Well, I know where the open doors are." And then I never will forget this guy named David sitting there, a fellow officer. He said, "Well, where are the doors?" I said, "Well, I'm not telling you. I want to go home early." And I knew where to go. I took my time. I hit the streets about 11:15, went and got me some coffee, waited about 30 minutes, and I began to find those open doors. Where do you think I went? I went to the churches. And by 0300, I had found 8 open doors on churches. The very first church I checked had three open doors. I mean, one after another, and I went home early. Churches are notorious for leaving doors open. I've seen that many, many times. And let me throw this in too. You never want the pastor to be the one that's responsible for closing the doors. I'm speaking here as a former pastor in a 52-year ministry. Here's why. When the preacher is finished preaching on Sunday morning, or if you have Sunday night services, he is completely depleted of his energy. He is not going to remember to lock the doors. Don't put that on him. You need to do that as the safety team member or the custodian or somebody who is assigned to do that. When the preacher is through preaching, and I know, I would get through preaching on Sunday mornings and, man, I could barely remember where I parked my car. What you want to do with the pastor when he's done preaching is say, "Hey, pastor, are you through visiting? Are you through ministering?" And when he's done, walk him, his wife, children, walk his family out to the car and get him out. Let him go home. I say that for a reason, too. A few years ago, a pastor in Idaho, he stayed around after the service. The safety team went home. But when he finally decided to leave, before he could get to his car, which was about 40 feet away, I know because I've been there, he got shot about 6 times. A guy shot him, and then that would-be killer got on an airplane and flew to Washington, D.C., tried to climb over the fence at the White House, and the Secret Service detained him. So when the preacher's through, and you can tell he's done for the day, get him to the car. All right? Get his family. Let them go. And then you lock the doors. Because if you leave them open, homeless people and others may come looking for somewhere to sleep. And if you're okay with them sleeping there, that's fine. But if you are checking all the doors on Sunday morning, if one of them opens, there's a good chance, there's a possibility somebody's in there. Do not, I think I've already said this, but let me say it again. Do not go and don't draw out your gun. Don't go to your car and get your AR-15 and search the building. You do not have those kinds of skills. I tell churches everywhere, do not let the safety team do that. Now, if you have some police officers working there, right, obviously they're trained to do that. But even the police officer knows he should not do that by himself. I was a cop for 35 years. I got dispatched to a lot of scenes where there were open doors. I waited for the backup, or he waited for me, and the two of us searched it together. So if you open a door and it's 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, probably nothing. Probably nothing could get you killed. Listen, don't die doing this. Please, don't die doing this. Use common sense. If you don't have the skills of a police officer and you've been taught how to search a building, and you would know if you've been taught that you need somebody else with you, just back off, grab your cell phone, call the police and say, here's the deal, open door, need the police out, and they will come out. All right? Shake every door. What else does your safety team need to do? All right? Once you all gather, get together and call upon the Lord. Meet for prayer. Listen, do not remove the spiritual aspect of this ministry that you're in. I said that earlier. This is a ministry. All right? You need to involve the Lord in this. The Bible says in Proverbs, acknowledge God in all of your ways. So when you get your safety team together, call upon the Lord. By the way, the Bible says in James 5, the prayer, that's one prayer, the prayer of a righteous man, that's one righteous man, that's one prayer, one man, the prayer of a righteous man can accomplish much, can accomplish much. So it could be that the prayer that you and your safety team pray together is the very thing that results in the intervention of God and stops an act of violence from coming to your house of worship. What else needs to be done? Station your team at the right places. Oh, this is so important. Number one, I'm not going to give them any particular order because well, you'll see in a minute. Station your team at the right places. Number one, in the foyer. Make sure that you have somebody stationed in the foyer. If in the foyer there are two doors from which people are coming, if you have two people, put someone at both doors. And this is so important, you want the safety team to be comprised of people who are good at greeting everybody. You don't want a safety team member who stands off in the corner wearing sunglasses with his arms folded, looking like some kind of sanctified Secret Service agent. All right? You want, as a member of the safety team, if possible, shake the hand of everybody that shows up. Let everybody that shows up feel your presence. All right? This is real important. In the foyer, greet them all. And listen, if somebody comes in and they're acting suspicious or something doesn't look right, or they're acting kind of hinky, and, strike up a conversation with them and extend the conversation. You've never seen them before. It's 100 degrees outside. They're wearing a trench coat. Talk to them. Introduce yourself. Get their name. Hey, we're glad to have you here. You live in the area? Where do you work? What's your social security number? I'm obviously exaggerating. But listen, if you can extend the conversation, you will disrupt their rhythm if they have come there to commit an act of violence. You could possibly disrupt their rhythm. They'll think, man, this guy's got all my information. He talked too much. I'm leaving. He'll change his mind. That's not a guarantee, but you have to do everything that you can. And then, like we said earlier, after you've done everything you can do, then just trust that God will help you out. But let everybody feel your presence. Don't stand off in the corner ignoring everybody. All right? Make sure also in the sanctuary that you have people seated strategically. And you want to station your team members in the sanctuary where they can see everybody. I was talking to a guy one time and he said, Jimmy, we have about 20 people who carry a gun at church and we are ready. I said, well, okay, sounds kind of good. He said, yep, we all sit on the front row. I said, what? Oh, yeah, we're all armed. We're on the front row. We got the pastor covered and the choir. Oh, really? What about all the people behind you? He never even thought about it. That's where your training comes in. Listen, if you have 20 people in your church who have committed to protecting the flock and they're all sitting on the front row or two, you have a bad situation. You are no more prepared to stop a killer than the man in the moon. You cannot. You got to spread out. You need them. You need somebody by the door, and you need people who are on the outside or on the very back so that they have a good view. If a shooter is already in the church and he stands up and starts shooting, he's going to hit some, and your skills better be good. They better be good, because if you have to take him out, you're going to need to know what you're doing, and you might end up shooting 2 or 3 people. But make sure you sit strategically so that you can respond to anything, even disturbances. People jump up in the middle of church all the time and start something or shout at the preacher. I've seen videos of that. In the children's area, make sure you have a safety team member there. Now listen, you have to have a good children's check-in system. I hope you know that. And you have to have somebody that's in the children's area. I read a story where 3 or 4 years ago in a northern state, I can't remember where, but I believe it was a woman who came in, went to the children's area, and talked them into giving her one of the children. They were just convinced that she was the mother or grandmother, I guess. Now, the child was recovered and found safe. But you have to have a good children's safety program. The best in the country, the best in the solar system is ministrysafe.com. We'll talk more about that in the session on the prevention of sex crimes. But you got to have somebody in the children's area. And here's one reason why. What if there's a couple in the church that's separated or going through a divorce, and the wife has the children, and she's separated because he's been violent, he's hurt her, he's abused her, or the children. So she brings her kids to church one Sunday morning. She goes into the sanctuary to enjoy the service, and the husband shows up in the children's area demanding that his son or daughter or children, if he has several, be given to him. What are you going to do? I only bring that up because, as I said earlier, stuff like that happens all the time. Domestic violence is a regular occurrence at churches. Man, I remember a few years ago in California, there was a man that was separated, maybe divorced from his wife, and he can only visit the children when supervised. In a church in California, Sacramento, I believe it was, Sacramento, California, they agreed to let him see the children there, a designated room. He can meet with the kids, and there was a supervisor there. Well, one day while he's there with the supervisor and his children, enjoying his time with his children, he pulls out a gun, shoots and kills that supervisor, and shoots and kills his children. Domestic violence happens all the time in houses of worship. What else needs to be done? Now, here's the biggie. If you have not heard anything else I have said, I am pleading with you to hear this. All right, look at this. Station a team member right outside the front door who is armed and trained and hopefully and preferably healthy. I cannot emphasize this too much. Please do this. There's a reason for this. If you study all of these massacres that happen in churches, time and time again, you read the same old story. They're inside the sanctuary, they're singing or listening to a sermon, they're having church, and the killer shows up in his car 10, 15, 20 minutes into the service. He gets out and walks right through the front door and starts shooting, and nobody, I don't understand this, nobody was right outside the main entry into which he or she entered to stop him. You remember that shooting in the Tennessee where that girl showed up and shot at those 3 kids? Each kid was 9 years old and 3 adults in their 60s. She shows up at that Presbyterian school, which was also a church. She shows up, she's got a rifle, and she shoots out the glass of the front door. She walks in, kills 6 people, 3 children, 3 adults. Listen, what if there had been somebody at least somebody right inside the door, preferably right outside it, ready to stop somebody like her. The police finally arrived in, like, I can't remember, but it was either 11 or 14 minutes, and then they shot and killed her. And they did a good job. But you still got 6 dead people. What if there had been somebody armed, trained, and healthy, trained to stop a killer? Listen, they're going to come in the easiest entry. All right? That's what happened at the church I was married in 45 years ago. It was about 19 minutes after 11. 350 people are sitting in there. They're singing a hymn. The killer pulls up outside the church, parks near a fire hydrant, gets out of his little white, I think it was a Chevy Chevette. I believe he left the door open. He gets out. He's got an AR-15, an M1, a 38, a 22. He's wearing an Army helmet and 2 flak jackets. A pouch around his neck's got 400 bullets in it. He gets out. He walks, and I've been to the church hundreds of times. I was married there 3 years before this happened. First Baptist Church, Dangerfield, Texas, Sunday morning, June 22, 1980. Gets out of his car, walks straight there. Nobody there to stop him. Nobody. Oh, I once heard the pastor of that church 30 years later say, I sure wish we'd had somebody right outside that front door. You look at the killing in Sutherland Springs, Texas. We talked about it earlier, November 5, 2017. He shows up shortly after 11 o'clock. 50 or so people are in there engaged in worshiping, singing, and what have you. He pulls up in front of the church, gets out, goes in, shoots 48, kills 26. Nobody was standing right outside the front door to stop him. Now, after he'd been there a few minutes, if you recall Stephen Williford, great man, who lived about 100 yards away, his daughter said, Daddy, I hear somebody shooting an AR-15 at the church. Stephen grabs his AR-15, runs up there, takes cover behind a truck. When the man comes out and gets in his vehicle, Stephen shot at him several times, struck him twice, and he didn't kill anybody else. I think he either shot himself, of course, Stephen shot him twice, but he crashed out on down the road. But they had nobody. If somebody had been right outside the front door, not the parking lot, don't wander out into the parking lot, they'll come in behind you. Right outside the front door, the guy that's armed and he's trained, not just armed, you're not putting somebody back there who hasn't shot a gun since the Civil War. Are you with me on this? They're armed, but they're trained. Armed, trained, and preferably healthy. I hope you're getting this. I hope you're getting this. Let's talk about DLRs. Don't look right. If something doesn't look right, you may have to confront this person. Make sure that you do it with somebody with you. The police are sent to dangerous calls with a backup. If you see something suspicious, you'll need to confront that person and try to make sure that somebody goes with you.